Todd Hargis was the kind of store manager who smiled while he hurt people. In the middle of the checkout lanes at MeadowMart grocers, he pointed at my pregnant belly, laughed loud enough for customers to hear, and said, "You're too weak to work. Go home before you drop on my floor." I didn't scream back. I didn't beg. I walked to my car, turned on my phone, and decided I wasn't going to let him erase me quietly. I was 27, 7 months pregnant, and working as a cashier in Kansas City, Missouri, because I needed the health plan more than I needed pride. My prenatal appointments, my labs, the hospital delivery, everything sat on that insurance card. My rent was $185 for a small apartment over a tire shop. I was doing it alone after my son's father disappeared the moment the pregnancy got real. Like commitment was a bill he could ignore. I had exactly $640 in savings, and a calendar full of doctor visits that didn't care about my manager's mood. MeadowMart looked warm from the outside. Holiday banners, "We're a family" posters, a corporate slogan about dignity. Inside, Todd ran it like a private kingdom. He liked public humiliation because it trained the rest of the staff to stay compliant. He liked cutting hours because it made people desperate. And he liked picking targets who couldn't afford to fight back. The trouble started in early November, right after my OB wrote a note recommending a simple accommodation: shorter standing intervals and permission to use the small stool we kept behind customer service when my blood pressure spiked. Nothing dramatic, no extra money. Just the ability to work without my body tipping into a medical emergency. I handed the note to Todd in his office, the one with the Leader of the Quarter plaque angled toward the door like a warning. He skimmed it, tossed it onto his desk, and gave me a smile that made my stomach tighten. "You want a stool?" "I want to keep working," I said, calm, careful. "My doctor says—" Todd cut me off with a laugh. "Doctors say a lot. You're not special because you're pregnant." "It's not about special," I said. "It's about safety." He leaned back, eyes sliding over my belly like it offended him. "If you can't do the job, you shouldn't have the job." That was the first time he used the word weak. He didn't say it as an observation. He said it like a verdict. The next week, he made sure everyone learned the new rule. My register was lane 3, near the front where lines built fast and customers got impatient. When I shifted my weight or pressed a hand to my lower back, Todd appeared behind me like he'd been summoned by discomfort. One morning, he leaned close enough that I could smell mint gum and coffee. "Sit, and I'll write you up." "My legs are swelling," I whispered. "Just for a minute." His voice went louder, aimed outward so the customer could hear. "We don't pay you to rest." The woman unloading groceries stopped and looked at me with an awkward sympathy that made my face burn. Todd kept smiling like it was all normal. By Thanksgiving week, he escalated from humiliation to control. He started scheduling me for the longest shifts, 8 hours, no rotation, then denied break coverage when I asked. He moved the stool to the manager's office for inventory. He told supervisors I was milking the pregnancy and made a show of checking his watch if I walked too slowly to the back. The cruelest part was how he did it in public. Private cruelty is easier to deny. Todd wanted witnesses because witnesses who stay silent become part of the machine. On Black Friday, my feet hurt so badly I could barely feel my toes. A line of customers wrapped into the seasonal aisle. My vision blurred at the edges. That strange, bright shimmer that comes right before your body forces you to stop. I raised a hand to flag the front-end lead, a woman named Rena who'd been kind to me since my first week. "I need water," I said. "And I need to sit for a minute." Rena glanced toward the office, fear flashing across her face like a reflex. Todd said no extra breaks today. I nodded once, the world tilting slightly. "Okay. Then call him." Rena hesitated, then did. Todd arrived in less than a minute, grinning like he loved the spotlight. "What is it now?" "I'm dizzy," I said quietly. "I need to sit. I have the note." Todd's laugh came out sharp. Listen to her. Dizzy. A customer halfway through the line muttered, "She's pregnant. Let her sit." Todd turned toward the customer, still smiling. "If she's too weak to work, she can go home. We're hiring." Then he looked back at me and delivered the line that made my chest go cold. "You wanted to play grown-up and have a baby. Don't make your choices my problem." Something in me hardened, not anger, something cleaner. The realization that he was counting on my fear more than my performance. He was counting on the fact that I needed that insurance, that paycheck, that schedule. Counting on the fact that I'd swallow anything to keep my stability. I kept my voice flat. "I'm going to sit." Todd leaned in, eyes bright with satisfaction. "Sit, and you're done." I sat anyway, right on the little step near the register, because there was nothing else. My knees were shaking. The baby kicked hard like she was alarmed by my pulse. Todd clapped once, loud and mocking. "Everybody hear that? This is what weak looks like." The store went quiet in pockets, as if people were trying not to be part of it. Then life resumed. Scanners beeping, carts rattling, customers looking away. Todd walked off like he'd simply corrected an employee. An hour later, he pulled me into the back hallway and handed me a write-up for insubordination and inability to perform essential functions. I read it twice, hands steady only because I refused to let him see me shake. "This will affect my insurance," I said. Todd shrugged. "Should have thought of that before you got pregnant." That night, I went home and cried in the shower, where nobody could hear. Not dramatic sobbing. Quiet, exhausted crying, like my body was draining something poisonous. My ankles were swollen. My back felt like it had been pried apart. I kept thinking about the register lights, the beeping, Todd's laugh, and the way people looked away like they were watching weather instead of cruelty. The next morning, I did what I'd been avoiding because it felt too risky. I called HR. MeadowMart's corporate HR hotline answered with cheerful professionalism and a case number. I described the denial of accommodation, the write-ups, the public humiliation. I said the words pregnancy discrimination, even though saying them made my throat tighten. The HR rep asked if I had documentation. "I have a doctor's note," I said, "and the write-ups." "Any witnesses?" "Yes." "Any recordings?" Missouri is a one-party consent state. I'd looked it up the night after Black Friday, hands still trembling while the baby rolled inside me. I didn't record because I wanted drama. I recorded because I knew what it feels like to be told you imagined something that still hurts. "I do," I said. There was a pause on the line, just long enough to feel like the air changed. "Please email those to the address I'm sending you now," the rep replied, voice suddenly tighter. I sent the doctor's note, the write-up, and a short clip. Todd's voice saying, clear as glass, "If she's too weak to work, she can go home," followed by the line about my choices. I didn't send a speech. I sent evidence. Todd must have sensed something shifting, because the following week he changed tactics. He stopped insulting me directly. Instead, he started squeezing my schedule. My hours dropped from 32 a week to 12. The shifts he gave me were scattered. 3 hours here, 4 hours there. Too small to survive on, but just enough to keep me technically employed. The message was obvious. Quit on your own so he didn't have to fire you and risk a paper trail. I went back to HR with that too. Reduced hours after a complaint. Retaliation, more receipts. By mid-December, my body started protesting in ways I couldn't ignore. I woke up one morning with my hands numb and my vision shimmering again. At my appointment, my OB's face tightened after she took my blood pressure. "This stress is not safe," she said. "You need to be off your feet. You need rest. I'm writing you out for medical leave." I stared at her, fear rising. "If I take leave, I'll lose hours. You'll lose more if you keep pushing," she said, calm, firm. "Your baby needs you stable." I brought the note to MeadowMart. Todd met me by the time clock, like he'd been waiting. Medical leave, he read aloud, too loud, letting nearby employees hear. Of course. It's from my doctor, I said. Todd's smile sharpened. You know what I think? I think you're trying to scam your way out of work. I'm trying to stay healthy, I replied, voice steady. His laugh was ugly. Too weak to work. Then he added, like he wanted to make sure it stuck in front of witnesses. Corporate doesn't care about your tears, sweetheart. They care about coverage, and you don't earn coverage if you don't work. He denied the leave. Not formally, not with a letter. Just a verbal no and a schedule update that showed 0 hours for the following week. That was the moment the fear turned into something else. Because this wasn't just about humiliation now. It was about threatening my medical safety to force me out. I went home and opened my pay portal again, like I was checking a wound. My next check was tiny. And then the benefits portal updated. My health coverage was inactive due to insufficient hours. No warning, no meeting, just gone. I sat on my couch in the dark, one hand on my belly, and felt the kind of panic that makes your whole body vibrate. My next prenatal scan was in 10 days. I had a high-risk monitoring appointment scheduled because of my blood pressure. Without insurance, the office would require upfront payment. I didn't have it. That night, I drafted a message to HR so carefully it felt like surgery. I attached the doctor's leave note. I attached the schedule changes. I attached the benefits status screenshot. And I attached a longer recording from the time clock area where Todd said, clearly, "You don't earn coverage if you don't work," followed by his laugh. The next morning, HR called me back, not with cheer this time, with urgency. A corporate investigator named Daniel Ruiz asked me to walk through the timeline while he listened. He didn't interrupt. He didn't ask how I felt. He asked what Todd said, when he said it, who was there, and what policies I'd been shown. At the end, he asked one question that made my throat tighten. Do you still have the original audio files? Yes. Don't alter them, he said. Don't rename them. We'll need metadata intact. When a company starts talking about metadata, it means your manager's little kingdom is about to meet a larger authority. Within 48 hours, corporate issued a directive to the store. My coverage was reinstated immediately, retroactive. My hours were restored. My medical leave request was approved as an accommodation. I received an email stating in crisp language that retaliation would not be tolerated and that any further interference would result in disciplinary action. Todd didn't speak to me after that. He stopped walking the lanes like he owned them. He stayed in the office with the blinds drawn. The investigation moved fast. Too fast for Todd to control. Employees were interviewed off-site. Rena was pulled into a call and came back pale, eyes wide, whispering to another cashier. They have recordings. Supervisors started checking policies they'd ignored for years. Corporate compliance asked for copies of my write-ups and time clock logs. Payroll was instructed to preserve schedules and edits. Then came the part Todd never imagined. Corporate didn't just see cruelty, they saw liability. A pregnant cashier's denied accommodations, denied sick leave, denied benefits. Public humiliation, retaliation, a clean audio record. In writing, it would look ugly. In a lawsuit, it would look catastrophic. The settlement negotiations happened without me sitting across a table from Todd because corporate didn't want a scene. They wanted containment. But my attorney, yes, I had one now, made sure the numbers reflected reality. By February, corporate finalized the agreement. $500,000 paid out as a combination of lost benefits coverage costs, emotional distress damages, and punitive allocation tied to documented discriminatory conduct. It wasn't framed as, "we were wrong." It was framed as confidential resolution. That's how companies apologize when they can't risk saying the words. The number mattered, not because money heals everything, but because money is the only language corporations reliably respect. What no one expected, especially Todd, was that corporate wouldn't protect him with the usual quiet transfer. MeadowMart had a management agreement with a clawback policy for willful misconduct. Todd had signed it when he became a store manager. If his actions caused significant legal loss due to policy violations, he could be held financially responsible through forfeiture and repayment. Corporate didn't announce it publicly. They didn't need to. They made it happen. Todd lost his annual incentive, his deferred compensation, and his stock awards, just over $310,000. They demanded reimbursement of legal fees and investigation costs tied directly to his conduct, another $190,000. Total, $500,000. The simplest way to understand it was this. Corporate paid me, then turned around and took the exact amount out of Todd's future and his pocket. He was fired for cause the same week, which meant no severance, no quiet exit, no references. Just a termination and a repayment plan he couldn't laugh his way out of. I heard about it from Rena, weeks later, in the break room where Todd used to parade around like a king. They came to his house, she whispered, eyes wide. A courier, papers. His wife was outside. He looked small. I didn't feel glee. I felt a strange, heavy calm. Because what I'd wanted wasn't to watch him suffer. What I'd wanted was to stop being the person whose suffering didn't count. I took my approved leave. I made it to my appointments. My blood pressure stabilized. My baby arrived in late spring, healthy and loud, with a set of lungs that made me laugh the first time she cried because it sounded like she was furious at the world already. The settlement money meant I could breathe. I paid off the medical bills that had been stalking me. I put down a deposit on a safer apartment. I built a small emergency fund so the next crisis wouldn't feel like a cliff. But the real transformation wasn't financial. It was internal. I started speaking to other employees quietly, new hires, young women, people with medical conditions, about one thing. Document everything. Ask for accommodations in writing. Keep copies. Know your state's recording laws. Don't assume HR exists to protect you. Assume HR protects the company until the evidence makes protecting you the cheaper choice. Months later, MeadowMart rolled out new manager training and a hotline policy that routed directly to corporate compliance. They posted posters about pregnancy accommodations at the time clock, like they'd invented decency. It was late. It was still something. Todd's laugh stopped echoing through checkout lanes. And I learned a lesson I'll carry forever. Bullies don't change because you ask nicely. They change when proof makes them expensive. If stories like this matter to you, stories where power is exposed, dignity is defended, and silence doesn't win, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Every week I share real, emotionally intense workplace justice stories like this one. Stories about people who were underestimated, pushed too far, and finally fought back in ways no one expected. Before you go, I want to ask you something. What did you feel while listening to this story? Have you ever gone through something like this? Or do you know someone who has? Someone whose health, dignity, or livelihood was treated as expendable? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your story might be the one someone else needs to hear.